Delighted to welcome you to particularly this room, Committee Room 14, which is a very significant political room because the main political parties, the Labour Party, the Conservative Party in particular, they've always held their meetings here. So it's been addressed by Prime Ministers and others. So you'll have to do with me today to open this conference, okay, on that. And I believe that there's a bit of hold-up with tractors and manure that's been spread. So I hope some of our colleagues will feel at home with that in terms of what's happening outside. But apologies for that. Can I have a particular welcome to Mr. Holonia from Poland. I was a guest of the Polish Parliament about a month, 6 weeks ago. We met in the Parliament there, discussed many issues. And one of my themes as Lord Speaker, as head of an unelected chamber, is to develop soft power. And I know the willingness for us to engage in conversation, listening to each other. And the problems that we face today, the long-term problems, are those where we need to sit down and engage, not least on this issue of AI. So the UK Parliament is delighted to host the AI conference. And Mr. President's fittingly strong finale at the end of your busy and productive presidency. It is, of course, not your first visit to London this year. In February, I was pleased to invite Theodopoulos to deliver a lecture marking the 75th anniversary of the signing of the Treaty of London, which founded the Council of Europe and its Parliamentary Assembly. This was Winston Churchill's vision for rebuilding Europe after the Second World War. He and Ernest Bevin, the Labour Foreign Secretary, welcomed foreign ministers to London to sign this historic treaty. And later, a member of the House of Lords and of the Parliamentary Assembly, the Earl of Kilmuir, David Maxwell Fyfe, helped draft the European Convention on Human Rights. During that lecture, Mr. President, you spoke about how Churchill's vision was realised and the role of the Parliamentary Assembly in strengthening democracy and human rights, which have been the foundations of peace in Europe. And you also emphasised that conflicts can and must be resolved through dialogue and legal channels, not violence and the law of the strongest. These are turbulent times with threats to our democratic systems and rules-based international order. And the Council of Europe, led by the Parliamentary Assembly, was one of the first bodies to expel Russia following its full-scale invasion of Ukraine. So diplomacy and international cooperation involve negotiation, but there are limits, and Russia massively overstepped those limits. I listened with interest to the regular debates within our own chamber and the range of views on the Council of Europe and European Convention on Human Rights. These include contributions from active members of the Parliamentary Assembly, such as the former UK delegation leader, Lord Tuig, and the new leader, Lord Jones of Pennybont. They highlight the valuable work you do in Strasbourg, including electing judges to the European Court of Human Rights and observing elections. I know, Mr. President, that you have ensured the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe has led on issues around artificial intelligence and its implications for human rights, democracy and the rule of law. The Assembly has worked to address these implications, promote democratic and rights-based governance and engage parliamentarians in shaping the governance and regulation of artificial intelligence. But as a body of parliamentarians, we have a long, long way to go on this issue. In the digital world, as much as in the real one, it cannot be the law of the strongest. We must have dialogue to agree the way forward. Digital technology and AI are global, so our approach must also cross borders at fora such as this. The House of Lords has considerable expertise in digital AI and democracy, human rights and the rule of law. And we are a revising chamber of experts who scrutinise legislation line by line and hold the government to account. The combination of time and knowledge that we bring to the legislative process is of great benefit. It is not widely known that hundreds of our suggested amendments are accepted by the government each year as improvements to their proposed legislation. And that is done through debate on the floor of the House, where government and opposition, crossbenchers come together, and government provide amendments themselves after listening to that debate. So it's not a tug-of-war contest, it's very much a consensual engagement on that. And I would say on average we send 1,000, 1,200 amendments to the House of Commons every year, and 85–90% of them are agreed. So it's important to remember that that is the pursuit of good law, and it's happening day and daily. The House of Commons, though, as the elected House, is the primary chamber, but recently on issues such as digital rights and legislation such as Online Safety Bill and the Data Use and Access Bill, the House of Lords has made significant contributions. Our committees have also worked on issues around AI for a number of years, with, for example, an inquiry into AI and weapons systems, and we will continue to debate these issues, informed by events such as this one today. Recognising the expertise we have in the House of Lords, I have established, as Lord Speaker, an advisory group on AI, and this cross-party group, chaired by Lord Clement Jones, is investigating questions surrounding the use of AI tools in parliaments, with a keen eye on issues such as privacy, misinformation and reliability of sources. And as parliamentarians, we all share a responsibility to ensure that democratic and civic engagement is not undermined through misinformation, willful or otherwise. And we have an obligation to support our parliaments to continue to be authoritative, trusted sources of the truth. In an era when new content can be created and distributed in a heartbeat, we must consider how new technologies support our collective goals and do not distract from them. These are, as I mentioned, politicised times, and although I hold a non-political role as Lord Speaker, I always champion the importance of parliamentarians coming together with experts to ensure they are informed and able to discuss the challenges we face. By listening to each other and through respectful dialogue, we can resolve issues peacefully and deepen mutual understanding. And we may find agreement or agree to disagree agreeably, but we will have considered other perspectives and be better informed for that process. So I thank you for attending this conference and investing your time in this issue. It is important, but often unnoticed work, and I look forward to understanding more about what we may be able to apply to our work on AI here in Parliament. So once again, thanks for your visit to Parliament here, and I wish you a productive and an enjoyable session. Thank you.
If I may, before we start, I would like to express how thankful we are to Lord Speaker, of course, to the House of Commons. But let me say a few words personally about the Lord Speaker. His hospitality, his kindness, his wisdom, which I had the opportunity to share again last night. We talked a lot about issues related to what is happening today in our planet. His experience, which is a tremendous experience of a politician who has seen it all, gave me the opportunity to reassure that the principles that we are representing in the Council of Europe are the principles of the world that he has just described. It's not a word that it is now old-fashioned. Maybe some of you have heard me saying that democracy may be old, but it is not old-fashioned. And even if we discuss for new elements in our life, in our democracy, like it is artificial intelligence, it is experience and wisdom needed to all of us to make conclusions, take decisions, and to see the future in a more clear view. Dear colleagues, Honourable Lord Speaker, I would conclude, because it is not in the program that I will have given a speech, but I will conclude by saying there is intelligence, superintelligence, artificial intelligence, and no intelligence. This morning, watching the news on BBC, I have seen that a big political leader, a very famous political leader, had filed a lawsuit against BBC for $5 billion. So I let it to you to categorize in which category this kind of acts against actually the freedom of expression we can put. Thank you once again for your hospitality and for your kind words. Simon.
Thank you so much. I'm a little bit intimidated by the presence of such a big personas here, Lord Speaker, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm Szymon Hołownia. I used to be a speaker of Polish Parliament, but right now I'm Deputy Speaker responsible for international relations. I'm here with my colleagues, our MP Daniel Milewski and our Deputy Chair of International Affairs Bureau, Madam Anna Trębaczkiewicz. And I was asked by Mr. Chairman to say a few words about artificial intelligence, I would say, in practice. Because especially in Poland, we are like a testing ground for some evil forces that used to use artificial intelligence not in a way we would prefer in our democracies. Why is it so important, and why I will probably extend the invitation a little bit and will speak a little bit more than 10 minutes, but I hope I will keep you interested because it's a crucial thing for us MPs. There is a high probability, let me be blunt on it, there is a high probability that the very next elections in Poland, as well as in your countries, will be won by the voters who do not exist. And of course, we will be spending millions of pounds, of zlotys, of euros for our campaigns. And we will be trying to reach our audience, our voters, to persuade them that we are the ones who can be trusted, who will repair this, who will fix this broken world. But there will be millions, millions of voters who do not exist. There will be like I would say, artificial countryside of democracy applied in upcoming 2 or 3 years. Look what's going on in Poland. Look at us, as I said, as a testing ground for some of the techniques of cognitive war, of devastating the pillar of democracy, which is modern society based on the values we accepted. They are, the most important pillars, fundaments of our lives. Responsibility, telling the truth to the people, taking care of one another, kind of social empathy, kind of sensibility we have to this world, to the people, but to the nature as well when we are facing this climate change crisis. Look what's going on right now. We are here in Europe recovering, we could say, from the multi-crisis of absolutely unprecedented scale. In the lifespan of my older daughter, Maria, who is right now 8 years old, 5 huge crises happened. 5, not one. The one of such crises devastated the whole humankind for decades in our history. But right now, we faced 5 of them. Migrational crisis, financial crisis, climate change crisis, war in Ukraine crisis, and of course, COVID pandemic crisis. It's not a strange thing to all of us, because we are very much involved in politics, that in the times of crisis, people are, generally speaking, are moving right, not left. When there is safe waters, they are moving a little bit left. They are much more about cooperation, openness. Right now, we do not have this division, this old division to right and left. We have the division to open societies and closed societies. We are scared. We are threatened. it's much more easy to unstabilize our emotions. And that's what's happening. Russia is doing its cognitive war since 2014, and it's investing up to $4 billion every year. What is the aim of this war? Western states, Ukraine, neighboring states, and of course all of our Western world alliances like NATO, European Union, and others. What is the aim of these actions? It's very simple. 3 things. Escalation of emotions. The second one is polarization. And the third one is weakening trust into public institutions, to the government, to the alliances, to the army, to the parliament, to our democracy, and so on. I think a very interesting case study could be the situation which took place in Poland in September this year. As you probably know, we experienced a huge drone incursion into our airspace. It was more than 20 drones operated from Belarus, operated from Russia. They were shot down by NATO jet fighters, but it was a threatening situation for all Poles, as you can imagine. Because this is a completely different thing to read or hear about, to listen about the war in the media, and it's a different thing to find a Russian drone in your courtyard, near your kindergarten, near your shop. It's really, for us, it was a momentum. It was a momentum of social, I wouldn't say collapse, but of social, or the test of social integrity. And Russians were there. During this very night, starting from 2 a.m., and it was like a peak was around 2 up to 3 a.m., internet exploded with millions of comments in the Polish media, I would say infrastructure, ecosystem. Millions of comments generated by bots, by fake profiles, by AI steered, I don't know what term I should use, fake personalities. We did not experience only regular bots. We experienced kind of new thing in this area, these hybrid bots, so profiles, personalities who can adapt to the discussion. When they are in the debate, in the ecosystem where there are only emotions, bad words, and fire, they will be blunt, they will be vulgar. But when they are taking part in the debate of a more sophisticated quality, they will be very eloquent. They will be using, like Queen's Polish, I would say, referring, of course, to Queen's English. They can adapt to the situation. They can adapt to the person who is reading these comments in the internet. And we were not successful as a state, as a country, and I cannot say that we won this battle. Yes, we shot the drones down, but we didn't won in the internet. Imagine that 32% of the comments, of the whole number of comments in the internet after this drone incursion were stating that it was Ukrainian provocation. It was not a Russian act. It was Ukrainian provocation. Another almost 20% stated that for sure someone is trying to take us into the war which is not ours. Another 15 or 14% was trying to show, hey, look, what kind of chaos we are experiencing in Poland after this attack. Look how weak NATO is. Look that there is no response from European Union at the time. You know, how can we trust them? How can we trust them? I'm trying to show my colleagues, I'm trying to show my voters, I'm trying to show in the public sphere in Poland that we are waiting for Putin to come to our country with tanks, with Katyushas, with missiles. But he will never come, I hope. But what he would do, it will be devastating, demolishing us from inside. In the time of 2 years or 3 years, he will make a mincemeat out of our feelings, out of our fears, out of our hopes, out of who we are. And this is very important and dangerous thing. You know that global players, global powers are playing their game. You know TikTok algorithms. In Europe, in Western hemisphere, they are concentrated on, I would say, entertainment. In China, they are concentrated on education, or, you know, widening people's horizons. You know what's going on with the algorithm of in TikTok, in Twitter, in X. You know what's going on in Facebook. Look at, it's not only the matter, this influence of Russia, and it's not only the matter of you know, creating one bot or another, pretending that we are right now reading the story written by the old lady from Warsaw or from Krakow, who is a little bit scared about what's going on and saying that maybe we should surrender a little bit to Russia because it's not dangerous, not wise in our position between Germany and Russia historically to be in conflict with Putin's state. But they are doing one more thing, which is critically important. Because, you know, we organized like 2 or 3 conferences last weeks in our parliament concerning AI in the parliaments. We were asking ourselves questions how to engage AI more to speech to write procedures. What can we do more to help to MPs to write interpellations? But look how crazy it would be if there will be an interpellation or the question to the minister written by the AI, and the answer will be written by the AI as well. But what they are doing now, they are feeding the generative AI with the content which is full of disinformation. Look what's going on with the portals like Portal Combat, like Pravda. You know these portals? Probably you do. These are the portals created not for delivering information to the real people. They are just generating like millions of statements of fake news every month just to give a feed to generative AI to poison the mechanism of learning of AI. So, you know, for us, the user experience will be that the next time we will be trying to search for something in Google or wherever, we will have a fake news generated by the AI because the input to the system was completely faken. They are doing it on a daily basis. They are trying to poison the source. They are not only poisoning the bottled water, you know, water which was bottled already. They are poisoning the source of the information, and they are doing it very eloquently, very deliberately, and very consequently. And we in the Western world are still like years, I wouldn't say light years, but years behind of them. We should be ready. We should be ready to act. Because of course you will find, I found myself on the list of individuals, 121 individuals in Poland, which profiles was used to create deep fakes on politics, on different statements on war in Ukraine during last months. You will find, because you are MPs, you are known figures, you will find yourself on such a list sooner or later. That's sure. But what can we do with all of this? I think that the most, and it will be my conclusion, just one more data I want to point out. NewsGov found that more than 33% of chatbots tested in 2025 repeated pro-Russian disinformation. 23% of all of the chatbots tested in the web, and 70% cited manipulated articles. It's like a, vicious circle. To break this circle, we wouldn't find any AI or generative AI tool. We need a human being. We need a human being. Even if we will create, of course, you are a specialist, you are pros. You know that in this hype cycle, the peak for AI was in 2023. And it was like with, I can remember still this cover of one of the technological magazines I bought once in the United States. There was Buzz Aldrin on the cover. Old guy who traveled all the way to the moon, like 19 years old on this picture. And there was a quote from him. They promised me trips to Mars. I got Facebook instead. So I think it could be the same story with artificial intelligence, that it was, like hyped in 2023, but right now, okay, hype is a little bit limited, and we are trying to find some usefulness for this, for this kind of thing. But it can be a lethal weapon in the hands of Putin and in the hands of other people who want to devastate our world. So what is this human factor which can stop this vicious circle, which can break this vicious circle? What can I say? It's retweeting. It's just simple as that. We should, as politicians, as people of public trust, we should start with ourselves. And before we will retweet anything, before we will give something, to our friends on our wall, on Facebook to read, we should double check it. We should take this extra mile. We should take this extra effort to double check it, to stop it. If there is a domino of disinformation leading to misinformation, we should be the wall on which it will stop. We will be this brick which will not collapse. And we should teach our voters, our personnel, our people in our constituencies to do the same. Double check it. What is the stake of this game? Safety of our children. Safety of the ones we love. Because people are making decisions based on informations. If informations will be stolen, will be broken, will be fake, so we will be taking bad decisions. And we, for instance, there was one of the fields, the dimensions of the work of these chatbots after this drone intrusion was to threaten us. There was pictures of the crowded railway stations, and there was a comment. There were comments that, hey, I have a news from my colleague in Warsaw that Warsaw is evacuated. People are fleeing, to Germany. And there were pictures from, crowded terminal in London, for instance, in the peak hours. There were comments with the footage of, missiles attack or bombing attacks on Kharkiv, that drone exploded in the midtown of Warsaw, of the capital. Hey, we should escape. Look at the situation. If I read something like this, and I will retweet it, and I will make my decision on it, I will take my children out of school, I will rush to my car, I will probably be, speeding as much as I can to Germany just to discover that nothing happened, in fact. 80% of the chatbots, of the troll farms, of the tools that were used in this cognitive war incident after this drone attack, they were in Polish cyberspace for years. And they were providing business information, sports information, anti-vaccine information for years. They are just switching, they are just changing, they are activated when the master commands, on the master's command, and they are very skillful in it. My Romanian friends told me about one case, study case from Romania, before they discovered it before the last elections, that they found a troll farm, which were there for 4 or 5 years.
I'm sorry, Mr. Deputy Marshal. I hate Putin too. I strongly support Ukraine, but you've taken 25 minutes, sir, and we're now 30 minutes late. I'm just an ordinary person here, but I'd love you to conclude soon so we can carry on with our conference.
I'm here to answer. Sorry for taking your time, for testing your patience. If you feel insulted or you feel like, I don't know, uncomforted by this, so please accept my deepest apologies. That's why I'm trying to not only speak, but I'm trying to share my emotions, my standing, our perspective we have to face in Poland, in my country, in this very, very demanding, challenging time. Thank you so much.
My term ends by the end of January, but I don't know if Lord Blencathra is going to be a candidate to coordinate or to preside the Assembly. But Lord Blencathra, thank you for your intervention. I want to thank my dear Simon, who gave us a perspective which is really related to reality, because this was the idea I had when I asked him to come with us. We have witnessed AI used in the war in Ukraine, but it is totally different to see it on TV and different to listen from someone who was in the front row, and he is in the front row of the politics in Poland, facing a lot of attacks from the Russians who are using AI. Once again, dear Simon, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. So the two opening addresses really brought us to the very point of the discussion of next panel, so thank you. And after a first day of very intense discussion on AI, and we talk about its opportunities and risks and governance, we now focus on an element that underpins all the issues we have addressed so far, which is information and how AI is affecting it. As it was said before, information is not one policy field among others. It is the condition that makes all the others possible. Democratic participation, electoral integrity, public trust, security, innovation, sharing of ethical standards. None of these can function without a minimum shared information space. Of course, artificial intelligence does not create this information, but what it does is that is transforming it structurally. AI amplifies this information along 4 key dimensions. First of all, scale. Second one, speed. Third, personalization. And opacity. First, scale. Generative AI dramatically lowers the cost of producing content. Has been said. Every day, hundreds of millions of pieces of content are produced online on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and as it was mentioned, also at the sources, at the origin of the information. We have a big amount of database of misinformation that become confused with the correct information. What one required times, teams, resources, professional journalists can now be done instantly and replicated endlessly. Just to give you a framework, according to the European External Action Service, foreign information manipulation and interference activities have been observed in more than 80 countries, increasingly relying on automated and AI-assisted techniques. So we mentioned chatbot, automatized systems, fake news, everyone experiences it in its country. Second point that we'll discuss with our relevant speakers today, the issue of speed. False information already spreads faster than verified information. This is what the algorithms do technically. A landmark study published on Science that I really invite all of you to read, it came out in September, demonstrated that false news spreads significantly faster and farther than true news, particularly in political contests. AI combined with the functioning of the algorithm itself accelerates this dynamic further, compressing the time available for verification and responses. Third point I will address to our speaker, personalization. AI enables this information to be tailored not only to demographic groups, but to individual emotions. And this is what we experience every day, each of us. Fears and cognitive bias. This is no longer mass propaganda, it is micro-targeted persuasion, which is very, very different and that has huge democratic consequences, as it was said just before my intervention. This gets to fragmentation of the public sphere. Each one lives in its own microsphere with its own tailored information that probably it's based on fake basis. And each of us lives in a parallel and customized reality, sometimes can be quite similar. Most of the time it's different and you only meet online those that thinks and says what you want to hear. 4 point, opacity. AI blurs authorship, intent, and responsibility. Synthetic text, images, and audio makes it increasingly difficult to distinguish between authentic and artificial speech. The result is not only deception, but loss of trust and disengagement. So, 4 points: scale, speed, personalization, opacity. This is why the World Economic Forum Global Risk Report on 2024 identifies misinformation and disinformation as the most severe short-term global risk. They undermine our collective capacity to respond to all other risks. So this is a very huge issue. At stake is not only truth, but trust. Trust in the public discussion, trust in the public sphere. However, there is an issue. I am also the general rapporteur for the safety of journalists, for the freedom of information at the Council of Europe. We also have to be aware of the instruments that the states and that the sovereign national institution, also because not all the states of the world are under a democratic system, unfortunately, use to moderate and safeguard the discussion from the AI intrusion, because democratic responses must remain democratic, and this is an issue as well. Article 10 of the European Convention on Human Rights, as we all know, protects freedom of expression, allowing restriction only when they are lawful, necessary, and proportional. At the same time, and I conclude, the EU Digital Service Act introduces obligation to assess and mitigate systemic risk to civil discourses. We have to be very careful on selecting instruments that don't limit freedom of information and other human rights. So the question before us is not whether democratic institutions should act. The question is settled. The real question is how. So I give this, with this question, I give the word to our important speakers that are here today. The first is Yanis Sarts, Director of the NATO Strategic Communication Center of Excellence in Riga, who I thanks for being here with us today. He previously served as Chief of Strategic Communication of the Latvian Armed Force and has led NATO Stratcom COE since 2015, and he works focusing on foreign information manipulation, influence operation, disinformation security, so maybe he can try to answer on these 4 points that I posed. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and I'll try to be as short as I can. First, on Deputy Speaker's point, I think it is very important to recognize what the information space has become. It is a confrontation conflict zone. And that's when we look at the war in Ukraine, but also at the actually current landscapes across European countries, we see malign state actors actively pursuing strategies to undermine cohesion of our societies. There are groups that would tend to be criminal groups and others that use similar techniques to extort money from our population through scams and other procedures, and many times they work together in synchrony. And then there are smaller groups that are using this space to put out specific ideas, and it all is a kind of mix of that we are facing, and within that landscape we have AI that is now landing in these ecosystems. To what has been said, I'm afraid to say, I think it is just the early signs of what AI is bringing to information space. And what I would argue, what we see is a very limited use of already existing capabilities of what especially generative AI can do in a sense of information influence manipulation. It is correct. What it is used for, it is the scale and humanization of the artificial content. The scale is getting staggering. By some estimates, currently, 25% of total internet is already not human-created, it is synthetically created. Some parts of internet, mostly in a blog sphere, account to about 50% already not being human creation, but AI creation. I think everybody who's online has seen the moment the good AI generation of video came about. We saw the swarm around all the social media of both the fun, but also not so fun and manipulative videos coming about. That is what is happening today. Also very important, as the use of AI in a general population increases very, very rapidly, in particular ChatGPT, the attempts, as Deputy Speaker said, of data poisoning are forthcoming. Just imagine if people and your constituents start asking ChatGPT about their medical problems and how to solve those, which is increased number of population, as we see by data, how far for them to ask the next question, whom should I vote for? And I think that is also going to be increased question that is posed. And I see that some of these actors try to make sure that the answer is what they want it to be, rather what would be the original one through data poisoning. The good news is I'm not sure the data poisoning of the models itself is really working. What is working is placing the information in a way that it will be most likely snatched by those AI tools that people are using. But that's by far not what AI is capable. And that's where I think we have to focus. First, there's increased number of studies, peer-reviewed studies, pointing that AI is better at persuasion of humans than the humans are. There is one particular I really liked. It was about 1.5 years ago, so it was very ancient AI, these terms, where two groups of people were summoned to two control groups. One, and they were believing conspiracy theories of all sorts. And then one group was attempted to be persuaded by the humans, and the other one was attempted to be persuaded by a particular AI model. The humans were, hooray, hooray, capable of persuading 2%, which was very consistent with what I'm capable of with conspiracy theorists. The AI model was capable to persuade more than 20%. And more started to kind of report the doubt in their beliefs. That is the current capability. The other thing, emotional intelligence and the relatability of AI models. Have you picked up of those notions where people increasingly create relationships with AI? If not, just check with your constituencies. It's a big trend. In some countries in age group, up to 30% from those that use AI, 40% use it for relationship. And also OpenAI's study that reported the ways that people use it is actually for the relationships, mostly, rather than any other way of using these. Okay, it might be a point about the loneliness epidemic and et cetera, but what we see, the trust that is built within these relationships is a key vector of the influence. Have you heard about the 16-year-old boy that committed suicide, which was pretty much ChatGPT assisted, with all the kind of nuances of helping, how exactly to do that. And that was based on the relationship that was created by these AIs. Okay, that is a glitch in a system. But if that is not a glitch, if somebody creates an application based on a one generative AI model that presents these AI friends, and that's a profitable industry these days, instead of having a profit, it tries to attempt the behavior change of a particular person or a groups of person. That's another one of those, I think, very dangerous pathways. And I think what we're about to observe is, I think, interesting dynamic where I do believe we're starting to see the terminal decline, slow might be, of the existing social media model, which might be a whew to many. And the reason we believe is because the more it becomes synthetic, the more AI is capable to personalize whatever you need and want for your entertainment. There's no logic for people to go to the social media. But then if these AI systems that are so able to create these trustworthy relationships that people depend are designed in a way and form that undermine or allow these influence vectors both by hostile state actors but also by kind of non-state actors, we will have much bigger problems. So what I would suggest is instead of focusing just what the social media can do, and for the record, we run an assessment of social media landscape in 2 languages, Polish and Lithuanian, before Digital Services Act and after Digital Services Act. The outcome was there was no difference. One would argue there was actually worse. So we would be very careful on the, doing the regulation without the enforcement capability, which is, I think, very important. But my plea to you is concentrate on the next stage. And the next stage will be personalized AI for most of our citizens, one way or another, AI agent systems and etc. And that is where, if we get it wrong, we will have a very, very troublesome way of running our societies. But if we get right, it can actually correct some of the elements that are there. But of course, when we think even further, there will be multiple other things. And one thing that will be coming into the information space, especially vis-a-vis state actor exploitation of it, it will be the speed that you referred to it. And the problem for human systems will be we as humans will not have time to react. So we'll have to develop predictive AI systems, of course, it's from NATO speaking in multiple areas, but also in the information space areas, where we can predict this kind of pattern means this kind of attack and this kind of effect, so that we already can predict the best course of action to counter that. And that also goes back to my other point is, unless we have our own capable AIs, we will be left very much out in the open without capability. We can do all the regulatory frameworks and others we want. Unless we have a capability to enforce and follow through, it will amount to very little. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your very clear intervention. In the end, you mentioned the role, the complex role that the democratic institution and parliaments will have to do, that of course won't be able to do alone without the predictive system you were mentioning. But this brings us directly to the next intervention, the intervention of Edith Estrella, member of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe. She's a former member of the European Parliament and brings long-standing parliamentary experience on democracy, fundamental rights, and institutional responsibility. So please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As a rapporteur on AI and gender equality in the Equality and Non-Discrimination Committee of PACE, I will focus my intervention in this issue. It is a fact that AI contributes to the spread of disinformation, misinformation, and attacks on democracy and human rights, including women's rights. We are witnessing a growing backlash against gender equality and women's rights, also fueled by AI systems and tools. AI can indeed cause or exacerbate discrimination against women, leading to the denial of access to rights and disproportionately affects them. The risks and harms that AI systems pose to gender equality derive from data and models that reproduce, perpetuate, and exacerbate existing gender bias stereotypes against women and girls. AI creates new forms of abuse while it dramatically amplifies existing ones. The scale and indetectability of AI create more widespread and significant harm than traditional forms of technology-facilitated violence against women and girls. The underrepresentation of women in the AI sector, including in decision-making positions and the design and development of AI systems, is critical to change this situation. The existing gender-digital divide needs to be tackled too, as the spreading use of AI systems can intensify discrimination and underrepresentation of women and girls, and therefore there is a need to mitigate the resulting economic and social inequality. The use of AI is also linked to the spread of online harassment, sexist and misogynistic hate speech and disinformation about gender equality and women's rights. This, in turn, leads to an increase in online and offline violence against women and girls, including women in politics and in public office. Violence against women and girls in the digital sphere also has severe implications for women's participatory rights. The online hateful abuse directed at women results in many of them withdrawing from participating online. This is particularly problematic for women and girls, women rights defenders, journalists, and women in politics. The combination of AI-driven disinformation during electoral periods targeting women candidates and online sexist and misogynistic attacks is also growing. This results in a high personal impact and harm. Women leaders, journalists, activists, and public figures face continuous gendered disinformation, deepfake attacks, and coordinate harassment campaigns designed to silence, shame, and push them out of public life. It is important to note that what begins online often does not stay online, as digital abuse spills into real life, spreading fear, silencing voices, and, in the worst cases, leading to physical violence and femicide. AI tools targeting women and enabling access, blackmail, stalking, threats, and harassment have a significant real-world impact on women and girls, physically, psychologically, professionally, and financially. Let's look at a particularly serious and widespread phenomenon. A widespread new AI-powered form of abuse against women is image-based abuse through deepfakes. Deepfakes are digitally altered images, audio or videos created using AI. They are increasingly misused as a form of digital abuse, for example, to create non-consensual sexual images, spread disinformation, or damage a person's reputation. 90% of all online deepfakes are not consensual pornographic images, around 90% depicting women. Deepfake pornography makes up 98% of all deepfake videos online, and 90% target women. This is also a huge business. AI technology has made the tools user-friendly, and not much technical expertise is needed to create and publish a deepfake image or video. Moreover, as they are mainly developed by male teams, many deepfake tools are not even designed to work on images of men's body, only women's. AI-generated deepfake pornographic images, once disseminated online, can be replicated multiple times, shared and stored on privately owned devices, making them difficult to locate and remove. It is vital to hold perpetrators accountable. That includes creators, advertisers, and platforms that host them, and people who use them. But many of them hide behind anonymous and encrypted profiles and accounts, and the lack of controls by the platforms themselves. While victims often do not know if and how they can get help, and legal systems try to catch up with the rapid changes in technology and the difficulties of cross-border jurisdictions. AI-driven content moderation in online platforms often fails to detect and address different forms of online violence against women, including difficulties to get such harmful content removed. The AI industry has no interest in further regulation, including content moderation and removal of harmful content. AI facilitated violence against women and girls, often through sexualized approach that monetized the spread of non-consensual nude images, brings high revenues to big tech companies and their business model. AI service providers should not be full discretion to determine their own strategies to mitigate the discriminatory effects of their systems. Instead, democratic oversight and regulatory safeguards should be established based on the principles of fairness and anti-discrimination. Legislation must evolve with technology to ensure that justice protects women both online and offline. It is unacceptable that weak legal protections leave half of the population vulnerable to AI-facilitated attacks and violence, while perpetrators act with impunity, and platforms and AI developers pocket the profits of such disinformation, attacks, and violence. As legislators, we have a lot of work to do and a big responsibility towards women and girls. I call on all of you to work together to address the risks and challenges of AI towards half of the population and protect the rights of women, of all women and girls. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Edith. Your reflection on women's rights and human rights shed light on public trust, accountability. So I would like to ask Professor Javier Diaz-Noci, Professor of Communication at Pompeu Fabra University, to give us some reflection. His research is focused on journalism, media law, and artificial intelligence. So I think he can really get into the discussion on this issue. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. So thank you so much for inviting me. I'm just a very modest professor in communication and media law, especially copyright, and concerned by the advance of misinformation and the erosion of citizens' trust in institutions, media, and democracy. So I'm afraid my contribution will be very modest and probably will add nothing to what has already been said, but still I will try hard. Okay, disinformation has many faces, from the quite imprecise term fake news, meaning lies or half lies, which includes confirmation bias that can be hardly prosecuted, to just erroneous or inexact information or malinformation, to misinformation or maliciously created and disseminated fake contents whose most worrying variety is, I think, deepfakes. To fight against harmful AI-created and disseminated content and the intentions behind it, we must first understand how both generative AI and misinformation work, and in this respect, I thank you very much, Mr. Holonia's speech, for being so clarifying. We should tackle it legally, ethically, and through media literacy as well. Not an easy path, though, whereas so many times it is almost impossible to determine authorship of criminal offenses, liability, not to mention how limited we are because of territoriality issues. Of course, artificial intelligence is a geopolitical matter these days. And in the end, we need to confront legal application and efficacy, especially when the threat comes from third countries outside our legal tradition. Foreign information manipulation and interference, in my humble opinion, is the greatest danger we are facing these days. We need to confront these days, and it is also our primary legal weakness. Technology, it was said here yesterday, is borderless, but the law is not. But also, make no mistake, malicious deep fakes can come from the inside as well. And here is where media literacy becomes more important in a scenario of declining trust in the institutions, in the law, in the media, in a scenario of doubts about accountability and transparency of institutions, of democracy, of the media industry, issues especially ruled under the European Media Freedom Act that needs to be developed in most countries because it provides just the general framework for transparency and accountability on a national level. As a consequence, news fatigue and news avoidance may appear, and they have. This is a scenario in which most people, clearly the younger, rely on social media to fulfill their information needs. They rely on social networks run by huge companies from outside Europe, especially the US and China, for whom money comes first and with little or no obligation at all to tell the truth or to care about it. So human rights are at stake, not only freedom of speech, which is not without limits. We need to remember that. Privacy and intimacy rights of individual citizens, right to one's own image, defamation, libel, slander, hate speech, also with some possible exceptions, satire, criticism, and parody. This is clearly exemplified in a case that happened in my own country, Spain, and this is a Catalan case. It appeared all of a sudden, a video clearly created with artificial intelligence, reproduced by a small digital outlet in Catalonia, showing the leader of the far-right Catalan party, Sílvia Orriols, a digital replica of her, beating and shooting a digital replica of former Catalan president and now MP of the European Parliament, Carles Puigdemont. All of them immediately told that they were going to sue someone because that video reproduced and disseminated by, not surprisingly, X. All of a sudden, it disappeared. No author, no liability, no prosecution is possible so far as I know. So deepfakes, disinformation on steroids, can only be fought using, in my humble opinion, a combination of tools. Fact-checking, this is an interesting initiative by a couple of newspapers in Honduras, okay? Image inverse reversion, analyzing metadata, and tracking networks. My impression is wishful thinking. It's fine, but artificial intelligence goes faster than we do. We need also administrative measures, diplomacy in the case of foreign interference, but then new forms of scamming and challenges related to some other legal branches like labor law arise. So regulation of deepfakes, or more generally speaking, or digital replicas is necessary. We should take action in some way. We should effectively regulate the transparency of production and of the dissemination of AI-produced harmful content. It can have some implications related to copyright law as well. We need to explore legal solutions. Sure, we make the law, or the market will, and the market means X, Meta, OpenAI, Google, and nonetheless, Palantir, and the current US administration. Remove all barriers, laissez-faire, laissez-passer. But first, applying the existing law effectively is a way to explore. Also, media law, usually considered over-regulated, in my opinion, under-regulated many times. In this economic activity, which we consider so necessary for democracy, innovation can come at the cost of regulation, and regulation can come at the cost of innovation. Reforming the law is another way, and the Danish and Dutch way, using copyright law to give more power to the people protecting their own image, is promising. It has also been criticized by prestigious legal scholars, but it is unclear whether it can be extended to other countries, whether the right to one's own image falls into privacy law. Or we can create new laws. We have already some, others have failed, some others are on their way. So here is my final question. Can we tackle deepfakes just using the law? We should reinforce our laws, from personality rights to international legal instruments with some evident limitations. We could create new law on what? Deepfakes, digital replica, malinformation, misinformation, deepfakes, on artificial intelligence, on social platforms responsibility. We can reform the law. We can go for litigation, which is lower than creating the law. But we need to harmonize the law and avoid fragmentation. We are confronting enemies and supposedly friendly fire. Divide et impera, Julius Caesar said. I think we are between a rock and a hard place these days. And I'm convinced we should work on promoting fact-checking, restoring trust in media, and relying on citizens' collaboration through media literacy. We need for our citizens to perceive that they are able, that they can make ends meet again. Otherwise, we are losing sight of what is important: a healthy, prosperous, and equal society, prone to believe again in strong institutions and in democracy, avoiding siren songs from the outside and the inside. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So we have seen the content, the parliamentarian issue, the legal issue, and now we go to technology with the last speaker, who is Federico Menna, CEO of 28 Digital, who works in, who knows how technological systems are designed, deployed, and scaled. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the kind invitation. I represent 28 Digital, which is indeed the largest European open innovation ecosystem, bringing together the corporate, the startups, but also the policymakers together in the same multi-stakeholder ecosystem. And today I would like to share with you three concepts, and I would like to also bring some optimism to the picture, because as a proud European, I believe Europe can play a big role when it comes to trust in technology. In Europe, we have built the medicine, we have built the modern banking and education, and currently, if you look at all the numbers, we are leading the way when it comes to sustainable innovation. So it's true, we are lagging behind, we are attacked from all sides. Still, we have many assets which should put together and deploy when it comes to technological innovation. The first item I want to talk is about the protect and build principle. So when we build trust, it's not only a matter of protecting. We need to protect algorithms, as we just heard from many speakers. We have to protect networks. If the network goes down, well, probably 80% of our economy collapses. We have to protect the critical information infrastructure, because we saw how easy it is to misspread information. And the numbers are quite scary if you look at them. What we do at 28 Digital, we continuously confront and discuss these topics through policy papers, but also through active engagement of the makers and the shapers. You see on the slide a discussion I had last year with the Vice President of the European Commission, Margaritis Skinas, on the importance of skills, but also social cohesion and democratic values. And in our reports, we highlight and we bring to the attention of the European policymakers some critical points about deploying technology with European values, and especially when it comes to protecting. But as I said, it's not only a matter about protecting, it's a matter of building. And when it comes to building, it also means that we shouldn't only defend ourselves, but we should also be proactive and address the issue of misinformation, of lack of trust. And what is the most powerful tool we have is education. Education that comes in two flavors in my way is about building a next generation that really understands this concept of our future leaders that have the knowledge of technology, but they also know how to build societal and economic value with this technology the European way. It's about upskilling also. It's about making sure that everyone gets at least a basic understanding of technology, because we are exposed every day in everything we do to technology. And of course, sandboxes is, I think, a powerful tool that we are trying to deploy in Europe to combine innovation and regulation, because the dualism is pretty strong. We heard it also before. How do we solve it? Well, maybe there's not a single answer, but definitely we have to work in with the sandboxes. One example we do at 28 Digital, we run a very large master program that combines technology and innovation in the same program, so very strong STEM education with the top technical universities in Europe, but also innovation and entrepreneurship education. You see in the slide our students last year at the Bosch premises in Hungary celebrating their well-deserved diplomas. And this is our tool to build that generation of digital leaders with values at the heart that I mentioned before. And these are our partner universities that are working with us on this important topic. But as I said, we also need to work on the essentials, making sure that everyone have a basic understanding of technology. For this reason, we run online programs on generative AI and cybersecurity, providing a very basic but important understanding of what it means to use technology in our daily life. The second item I want to highlight is about ecosystems. Europe is lagging behind when it comes to innovation when we look at our other parts of the world. This is not a secret, and I don't want you to convince of the opposite. However, in Europe, we are very strong when it comes to ecosystems. We are very diverse. We have the best science, the best universities, and the best talents, but unfortunately, very often they are fragmented into a very fragmented European landscape. So we have to bring all these people, all these assets together, and this is, for example, what we do with our network of 350 private and public organizations, and with our graduates, with our startups, and with our investors. So it's really important, in my view, that we work in ecosystems, and a strong and healthy ecosystem needs to have 4 ingredients. The first one, of course, is to have talents, build the talents, but also attract them from other parts of the world. We are not big enough to only produce our own talents. We need to attract them, and especially we have to retain them. Let's use also the current geopolitical tension as a facilitator for us to retain the talents. Maybe it's really a moment where we can really promote the European way of life. We need to have a tech infrastructure. It's not only about the technology, the high-performance computing, but it's also about having universities, research organizations, startups, and the corporates building together this infrastructure. And then, of course, we need values, and we need the public and the private together. Nothing of what we have discussed today and that we discuss on a daily basis with when it comes to trust in technology and to defending ourselves from disinformation or misinformation can be solved by one party acting alone. It's really important that the policymakers and the entrepreneurs, the companies, the public sector, that we all work together to address this. And you know, this is just a slide that I always like to show. We always, when we are comparing Europe against the rest of the world, we always measure the number of unicorns that have been built in Europe, and the number is always very small compared to the US, for example, but even Asia. And a unicorn is a company that has reached a 1 billion valuation. Well, it's true. We will never, and I'm sure about that, we will never exceed the number of US-born unicorns. But we do grow our capabilities in innovation and in responsible innovation by bringing all our ecosystems together and help them scaling together. It's really important that we think about that. It's not only about the size, it's not only about the speed, it's also about working together. In the interest of time, I will skip this slide. Anyway, the material I assume will be circulated. This is another example that we use to show how European countries can work together by bringing all the assets to the table and deploy responsible innovation. And then the third item, after talking about the protect and build principle and after discussing ecosystems, is about a global outlook. I hinted at that in each part of my presentation. But let's take into account, I'm sorry, the slide here is not very well visible, but what I wanted to say is that there will be, in the coming years, 1.3 billion of AI agents deployed. So this is not only a European problem or opportunity, it's a global challenge. And unfortunately, when we look at the statistics about AI adoption in European companies, especially in some member states, the numbers are not putting us in the best position. But again, we have very strong power when it comes to regulating the use of technology in a responsible way, and we are not alone. Also, when we hear that we are the only ones using regulation and the others are innovating, well, it is not true. Maybe we are the ones that are doing it in a responsible way, and we are the ones that have a potential to scale innovation and regulation together. But if you look at my slide here, there are at least, you can divide all the countries in different ways. I tried to use this simple one, but you see that there are different type of regulations when it comes to AI in many other parts of the world. And why is that? Because they were making fun of Europe being a regulator in the past, but now everyone is realizing that this technology is so powerful that if we don't regulate, then the damages that can be created will be just hundreds of times bigger than the ones we could create with the previous wave of technology. So it's also important to be proud of what we are doing as Europeans, but of course also looking forward that we have to work more in order to make sure we can deploy technology, again, in a responsible way with regulation, but also with innovation. So to conclude, I tried to list here several topics we should all work together. I think one way or the other, everyone already mentioned them, so I will not repeat them. But my message to you is, first of all, let's be proud of what we can achieve. Let's be optimistic, but also and especially let's work together, because this is such a huge challenge that we will not solve it on our own. And of course, this is just a short presentation, but I'm happy to follow up with all of you to see how we can best work together to tackle this. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you. So we are quite late on the schedule. We have time for a pair of fast questions, and then we'll keep talking during the coffee break with our panelists. So, Petra. Yeah, if there are just the four that have, then we can fastly get them all, yes.
Very short, beside the concept to debunk information, there is also the concept to pre-punk misinformation and to make the people resilient against. Do you have any good practices on that, on how to make resilience, build resilience against misinformation?
Matthias, I take the question and then the panelists can reply.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. My name is Matthias Kloth. I'm the head of the Digital Governance and Sport Department in the Council of Europe Secretariat. Thanks for this very timely and interesting panel. It triggers one question. What is the intergovernmental response of the Council of Europe? I know PACE is doing very important work on this. The Committee of Ministers have decided to ask the European Committee on Crime Problems, one of the oldest and distinguished bodies in the Council of Europe, to draft a feasibility study for the ministerial meeting in Chisinau next May, with the question, should there be a Council of Europe legal instrument on FIMI, perhaps along the lines as there is an AI convention. So here's my question to not a particular panelist. If you could choose one thing that would be in such a future legal instrument or convention, what would that be? Thank you.
Thank you. And Joanna Bryson?
Two quick questions. The first one could be a comment if I can't have two questions, but it's just that it has to be. We have to have responsibilities so that we can improve the world. So how can it be that if we don't see the author, that it doesn't become the platform's responsibility? But that's why I talked about the need for transnational cooperation yesterday. So my actual question, which I don't know about, is I have once seen recently in Spain a beautiful study of school children, and it seemed that none of them believed the disinformation, but the more disinformation there was, the more they didn't believe the truth. So the real thing was it was corrupting trust in our institutions. So I was just wondering if anyone could confirm that, since I've only seen it once.
And Deborah Bergamini.
Thank you, Chair. Very quick question, maybe to Federico, maybe to Professor Diaz-Nucci. I share the optimism about the role that Europeans and the culture that Europeans do have. But I wonder whether or not we are inevitably in too much of a delay with respect to developing AI in Europe. We just have Mistral as a solution, and I think that with respect to the huge corporations, America and China, we could be too much in a delay that is not compatible with the speed of the evolution of the technology.
Thank you. So maybe starting from Federico, we can reply to.
Yeah, I'll try to be brief. About resilience, my answer would be using the ecosystems. That's actually an asset we have in Europe by having all this diversity. If we, instead of using diversity to create fragmentation, as we did so far, we use it to build a competitive asset by bringing together the best in each country, we can also, in a way, build resilience. But it's an interesting topic. You saw my picture of my report on dual use, which was the last one. I'm thinking of building the next one on resilience. So it's a topic very high on the agenda. On the what would be my wish, maybe this question was more for the others, but I do think if we want to build trust in technology and we want to do it the European way, we really have to build pan-European, but really pan-European deployed sandboxes with a strong governance frameworks where we can really understand what's allowed, what's not allowed, and what is allowed under certain conditions to test technology. And to the last one, yes, if we look at the model makers, true, Europe is behind. Yeah, we have Mistral, we have Aleph Alpha, and a few other examples. However, we studied how the investment are going in generative AI landscape, and in last year we had 75% of the investment was going into the models, and the rest in applications and other things, infrastructure a bit, but mostly applications. Now the 50% has gone into the model, and the applications are booming. And it's true that if you don't have European models, you undermine a bit the fundamentals. At the same time, there are other, there are examples of models that we can reasonably use. Of course, maybe I wouldn't use the one mentioned before, spreading misinformation about Russian actions, but maybe there are models, maybe done in other parts of the world, which we trust a bit more, that we can use. But more important, Europe is not behind when it comes to applications. We haven't seen all the potential that there is, but we see that slowly the investments are being reduced in the model makers and increasing in the applications. And that's where we could, as Europe, build applications on generative AI, agentic AI as well, that are really embedding the European values and trust in the application domain. But we cannot sit on our hands. We really have to speed up. And after AI, there will be other technologies where currently we are leading and we have a potential to further lead. Quantum is one of them. So that's also another important step forward that we have to make. Thank you.
Thank you. Edith, do you want to add something?
Thank you. As you know, I'm not. I'm neither an AI expert nor a researcher. I am a politician, a woman, a mother, and a grandmother, worried about the future of the young people, about the future of the quality of our democracy, and about women's rights. And at the time when there is a growing global backlash against gender equality, AI systems are increasingly contributing to this regression rather than preventing it. So protecting women's rights in the digital age requires urgent, coordinated action by legislators, regulators, and institutions. With the right safeguards, maybe AI can support gender equality and democracy, but without safeguards, I worry it will be a powerful driver of discrimination and harm. So, yes, we need a strong regulation on AI, and I'm not sure that it will be possible because the tech companies have much power, and there are a lot of interest. They will fight against regulation. So, dear colleagues, we are legislators. I hope the Council of Europe, our Assembly, dear President, could contribute with strong, after the convention, to contribute with strong regulation in this sector. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Diaz-Noche, are we too late? Or,
okay, thank you. I will be very short. I read an interview in Spain with Yuval Noah Harari, that famous author, and he said something like that. I'm translating it from Spanish. The largest part of information we share as human beings is not addressed to find the truth. It is addressed to create a social order and to keep a social order. And the geopolitical, social, economic, and democratic order we knew after World War II, it's been changing and clearly eroding. So what's the solution if there is just one? Sure, we need more education. I come from the education sector, so what should I say? But be aware that we educated people are considered by common lower middle class people as elitists from the interest because they can't make ends meet. And that's a problem in our societies because this huge layer of population can be very prone to believe that the truth is not what we are talking about here or what the media offer to them, that the truth is that comes from social network because it's attractive, it's quick, it's supposedly cheap and inexpensive.
Thank you. This is also a good point that you added to the discussion that we will reflect on because the elite versus the transparency of the truth on the web, it's another important theme. And Yanis Sars, for your conclusion.
Well, thank you. I'll pick up on the pre-bunking. That is correct. That's the only actually scientifically proven way to counterweight the disinformation. The fact-checking overlaps, in our estimate, about 0.8%. Those who look at a fact-checking and those who consume the disinformation, and the disinformation scale is much bigger. Pre-bunking, the best example, is a run-up to the full-scale invasion to Ukraine, where the dissemination of the intelligence by a few parties in our data set showed how it fundamentally undermined Russian ability to field their prepared disinformation campaign to muddy the ground. Also, I hate to be a spoiler, but I think in our data sets what we see is that when you're dealing with the AI that micro-targets the specific person, no education is saving. We've seen and we've run an experimentation where AI is trying to convince somebody with a data set and understanding of who the person is. No level of prior education helps. And that is where the world we're getting into. And that's where I'm, once again, if I would say one wish, concentrate, because we are now talking of what AI is capable today. It might be not exponential, but certainly there'll be growth. AI will be far more capable in 3 years' time. And the election systems and many other systems will be heavily affected. And therefore, if I want to say one thing, is concentrate on the emerging properties and shaping it. And there I would argue, and I agree, that we have to be in a place where we don't regulate, but we lead the development of applications, and through that we instill the values and the properties into these technologies. And I think that I do believe that's the only way that will be working.
Thank you. So let me thank you all for the very interesting analysis that we, of course, will have occasion to in the future, and also who has organized this very, very interesting convention yesterday and today. Now we have a coffee break. Just let's try to be back in the room at 11:30 so we can try to stick back to our original program. Thank you.